Hello everyone and welcome back to All About Steph 1, where I, Steph, talk about F1. And today's video is the classic, the only consistent video I make year in, year out, the season predictions. And the Australian Grand Prix is kicking off this weekend, so what better time? I don't know if anyone else feels like this, but the season seems to have crept up on me out of nowhere. Testing happened a good few weeks ago, and I feel like with that gap, I almost forgot that the season was actually happening, and I was like, yeah, it'll start in a couple of weeks. Now it's here. Anyway, let's get straight into it. I'm going to start off with my constructors' predictions and then move on to my drivers' predictions with some random ones sprinkled in here and there. Kicking it off with the constructors, in 10th place, I have gone with Kick Sauber. Do you get it? Kicking it off. Who have struggled a little bit in recent seasons, and the car has just not been the fastest, and I don't expect this season to be too much different. In 9th, I feel like this might be a controversial one, but I've gone with Alpine. Last year, Alpine were bad. They had a couple of brilliant showings, for example, in Brazil, but apart from that, they were very up and down. In my opinion, they will regress a little bit this year. I do think the mid-pack is going to be quite tight, so it could kind of swing any way. In 8th, I've gone with Racing Bulls, V-Carb, RB, whatever we're calling them this season. I think we're going with Racing Bulls. Tsunoda has grown into quite the driver, and I do think he'll do a good job of leading that team. Isaac Hadjar, I know, is a rookie with a lot of talent, and I'm hoping he's going to put in some good performances throughout the season. In 7th, I've gone with Aston Martin. I would love to put this team higher. I rate Fernando Alonso so highly. The reason it's so low is just because Lance Stroll struggles so much. Sometimes he'll come out of the woodworks and throw in a stellar performance. Other times, was he even here over the weekend? There are only so many points on offer, and I'm not sure that Aston Martin will be picking them up consistently enough, and I think it will be Fernando Alonso doing most of the heavy lifting. I think. I'm pretty sure. In 6th, I've gone with Haas. They have made some great strides in the last year or so with Nico Hülkenberg and Kevin Magnussen. A new driver lineup with them, Ollie Behrman and Esteban Ocon. I really like both of these drivers, and I do think the direction that Haas is heading in is a very positive upward one. They are great on sprint weekends, and I'd love to see what they are capable of this year. Okay, breaking into the top 5. Starting off with Williams. Maybe this is really optimistic of me, but I think that Alex Albon and Carlos Sainz are a fantastic duo. James Vowles is really pushing that team in the correct direction. Towards the end of last season, we saw with Albon and Franco Colapinto that car was moving in a positive direction, and I feel like 2024 will be continued into 2025, and we'll see some positive results from Williams. In 4th, Mercedes. Of the top 4 teams at the minute, Mercedes, I believe, is the weakest. I do think they have the weakest driver lineup. Kimi Antonelli, while very hyped and has performed very well in the junior categories, he is still a rookie in Formula 1. It's a big jump, takes a lot of getting used to, so we'll see how he settles in. 3rd, once again, I've gone with Red Bull. They were 3rd in 2024. I think it will be a continuation. I'm really glad that Liam Lawson is going to be in that seat. I definitely think he will be a far better second driver in that Red Bull than Sergio Perez, and will back up Max Verstappen really nicely. In 2nd, we've gone with the reigning champions, McLaren. The papaya team I've put in 2nd behind the scarlet red Ferraris. Towards the end of last season, we got a brilliant battle between these two constructors and who would win the constructors title. This season, I do think that Ferrari is going to take it. I do think it will be quite close. The 2025 season is set to be a bit of a continuation of 2024, considering there is this massive overhaul in regulation coming in 2026. So 2025 will not be too much change to the current packages and the current cars that each team is running. As a result, these two teams were the top contenders towards the end of 2024. I think they will be in 2025 as well. However, the Ferrari lineup is a little bit stronger and a little bit more consistent, and I think that's what will edge them out. There you have it. There's my constructors list. Let me know if you agree down in the comments below, but let's head straight on to the drivers. In 20th, I've gone with Gabriel Bortoleto. I don't think this requires too much explanation. He is a rookie driver in what I've already predicted to be the slowest car, therefore 1 + 1. In 19th, I've gone with Jack Doohan. Again, I put Alpine quite low down, and he is a rookie who will struggle more than teammate Pierre Gasly. In 18th, another rookie. I feel bad on all the rookies. Isaac Hadjar. Again, Racing Bulls was quite low down on my constructors, and I think the rookies will struggle more than their established teammates. 17th, Nico Hülkenberg. Like I said, Kick Sauber, not going to be very fast, but Nico Hülkenberg will definitely pick up the odd point here and there. In 16th, Lance Stroll. I feel like I crucify Stroll every single season. Do you know what I'll say about Lance Stroll? And I've said this for years. Since Aston Martin announced their entry into the World Endurance Championship, I thought it would be perfect for Lance Stroll. Being part of a 3-driver team, I think would just suit him so much better. Unfortunately, he's struggling in Formula 1 and can't keep up with a lot of the incredible drivers and the massive talents that we have currently on the grid. Just can't help but feel like he's just wasting a spot on the grid. And we all know why he's there, and I'm not shading anyone, but I would love to see some real good results from him this season to justify his place on the grid. In 16th, Pierre Gasly. As I've mentioned, I think the Alpine will be slow. Pierre, I think, will pick up some really great points here and there, maybe during a sprint weekend, maybe during a wet weekend where things are all over the place. I will say about Pierre Gasly, I think he will have the most amount of DNFs. I think he's going to be really unlucky. He's going to be involved in some accidents, potentially that aren't his fault, but accidents nonetheless, maybe first lap incidents. And I also think he's going to be the subject of a fair amount of mechanical DNFs. In 14th, I've gone with Yuki Tsunoda. As I've mentioned, I do think he's grown into a really strong driver in the midfield. I'm not quite sure what's going on with him and his relationship with Red Bull. It could be the last season that we see him on the grid with Racing Bulls / within the Red Bull family. In 13th place, I've gone with Esteban Ocon, and while we're at it, let's do 12th as well, which is Ollie Behrman, his teammate. I'm really hoping that Haas is going to have a strong season and there will be some really good results in there for both Esteban Ocon and Ollie Behrman. In 11th place, I've gone with Alex Albon. I do think of him and Sainz, Albon is the slightly weaker driver, but I do really enjoy this pairing. So he is the last driver in the bottom 10. Let's move on to the top half of the grid. In 10th, Fernando Alonso. If anyone can make anything happen in Formula 1, it's this guy. In a package that I'm sure is not going to be the best on the grid, I'm anticipating a difficult season for Fernando, but some really exceptional performances here and there where he just shows us why he's a 2-time champ. In 9th, I've gone with Carlos Sainz, and to be fair, one of my bold predictions is definitely that we're going to see a Sainz podium. I think Williams is back to the top, baby. I'd love to put him higher. He's a very solid driver on the grid, really consistent, and very good strategically. But in a package that I think is going to struggle to compete with the top 4, I think this is the highest he can go. Right, top 8. If you've been paying attention, these are the 8 drivers from the top 4 teams that are all mixed up. In 8th, I'm going with Kimi Antonelli. Of all the drivers in the top 4 teams, I think he'll struggle the most. Like I mentioned before, rookies will always struggle a little bit getting to grips with things. I'm hoping that he's going to prove what he's made of. There's so much hype around this kid and so much pressure on his shoulders that I'm really looking forward to seeing if he can deliver on those results. In 7th, I've gone with George Russell. I do think there will be quite the gap between the top 3 teams and Mercedes this season, and that's the only reason I've put George Russell a little bit further down. In 6th, I've gone with Liam Lawson, the companion to Verstappen. It is very difficult to be in that Red Bull seat, especially that second Red Bull seat with Max Verstappen as your teammate. I think Liam Lawson is one of the guys best equipped to deal with that pressure. I will say, it's interesting I've put George Russell and Liam Lawson together. They are very fiery personalities on the grid, and they are together in the championship standings. I think they're going to come together on track at least twice throughout the season. They are both very elbows out characters, and I think that could lead to a little bit of tension on the track. And from 5th upwards, this gets quite difficult because they are all really competent, excellent drivers. But I've gone with Oscar Piastri in 5th place. What we saw a lot throughout the 2024 season and why he wasn't in the fight with Lando Norris and Max Verstappen up at the front was because he would struggle on odd occasion, on odd weekends, and just not be able to pick up the levels of points that Max Verstappen and Lando Norris were able to pick up throughout the year. Speaking of Lando Norris, I've put him in 4th position. I don't think this is the season he's going to collect a championship, unfortunately. He was in the fight last year and he did very well to last against Max Verstappen as long as he did. This season, I'm sure that the fight at the front of the grid is going to be even more fierce than it was. And though Lando Norris has very much upped his game, I'm not sure it will be enough to be able to compete with the 3 drivers ahead. Though I don't believe he's going to take the championship crown, I think Lando Norris will take the most amount of pole positions over the course of the season. Okay, it's time for the podium positions. Third place, I've gone with Lewis Hamilton. Now, Lewis in red is something that is just wonderful to see, and the whole of Formula One just seems to be gathering for this momentous season. I would love the narrative of Lewis Hamilton to win his 8th World Championship. I'm just putting it out there. I think it's great to acknowledge people's bias, especially as a presenter in the industry. I love the storyline that Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc will be the ones to lead Ferrari to a Constructors' Championship for the first time since 2008. It would give me such pleasure to say that I think Lewis Hamilton is going to take the championship this season, but I'm not sure that this is going to be the case. I really hope so in the future, and you know what? I would not be mad if my predictions are wrong and Lewis Hamilton ends up taking the crown this season. Like, I'll take it. In second place, I've gone with Charles Leclerc. And that means in first position, I've gone with Max Verstappen. Look, this season could go anyway. I do predict that it's going to be quite close between all of the guys at the top and all of the constructors. Max Verstappen currently has an edge that nobody else in Formula One seems to be able to match. And I think that's what's given him a heads up, especially last year when Red Bull wasn't the fastest car and McLaren dominated at most circuits. Max Verstappen just still had an extra little something. The top 4 in particular will be fighting it out, and it won't just be as simple as a championship battle that Max Verstappen runs away with. It could go anyway at any point. I'm so excited to see how the season is going to go. If we are lucky enough to witness anything similar to 2021, now that we've got a very competitive field being pushed together and everything on the table prior to the regulation shift in 2026, I think we're in for a stellar season. So there you have it. Those are all of my predictions. Let me know in the comments any crazy predictions you have. Let me know if you agree, disagree with what I have had to say. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave it a like and subscribe down below. Hopefully, I say this every year, hopefully I'm going to make more videos. But for now, enjoy the Australian Grand Prix weekend, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.